Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to explain what the Tory tabloids were going on about yesterday. Top lawyer set to deal devastating blow to PM party probe. That's what the Daily Mail had to say on its front page. So what exactly is this devastating blow, and will it work? But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So this is about the Privileges Committee investigation that could see Boris Johnson sacked as an MP. The charges are that he may have deliberately lied to Parliament on 4 separate occasions related to Partygate. Unlike the Sue Gray and the Met Police investigations, this one is real, and Johnson has no direct way of influencing it. Other than with his evidence, of course, which will have to be given under oath under pain of perjury if he tries to lie to them. The Daily Mail have already been trying to help Johnson out by attacking the people on the committee. A little tricky as the majority are Tory MPs, but they ran a proper character assassination on them. And one of the Tory members even stepped down, so they need to find a replacement now. It's a measure of just how politically charged this investigation is, that it's already had 2 members of the committee recusing themselves from the investigation in order to make sure that the public can have complete confidence in its impartiality. So now the Daily Mail and the Daily Express are running a headline, or they were yesterday, that tries to suggest that the way the committee are running the investigation risks weakening democracy. That's their words. The Daily Express front page tries to say that it's a Boris Johnson critic who is saying this. So even, if even someone who's critical of Johnson thinks that the investigation is no good, well, it must be true. The top lawyer cited in both papers is Lord Pannick QC. Now, people may remember that this is the QC who successfully represented Gina Miller in the High Court when she was able to demonstrate that the government had to give Parliament the say on when the Brexit Article 50 could be triggered. This is when the Daily Mail described the judges involved as enemies of the people by demanding the government obeyed the law. Pannick is also one of the lawyers who successfully brought the case against Johnson's unlawful prorogation of Parliament in 2019. So it's on this basis that they're regarding him as a Johnson critic. But what may be missing from their so-called news articles is that Pannick is actually working for Boris Johnson. Downing Street have hired him in order to present a legal argument against the very serious investigation into Johnson's potential lies. So although Pannick has won a case against Johnson, that doesn't make him a critic. It just makes him a lawyer representing a client for money. He's now representing Boris Johnson for money. He is a top lawyer. He absolutely knows his stuff. No argument about that. Evidence not only by his status as a QC, but his record of notable victories. And as Pippa Creer, who's one of the journalists who broke the Partygate story, noted, Pannick has been engaged by MPs in the past to get them off standards charges in Parliament before. This is why Johnson's hired him. He is an experienced lawyer who is very good at getting MPs off on technicalities. I don't think that was mentioned in the Mail or the Express. In fact, far from being a critic of Johnson, although he has challenged the government in his professional capacity as a barrister, it's probably fair to say he has also helped politicians get off on technicalities in his time as well. As far as I can tell from reports, Pannick is saying that the inquiry is flawed because what it needs to do is establish that Boris Johnson intended to mislead the House. Well, there's 2 things about that. First of all, that is actually one aspect of the investigation. They are investigating whether he intended to mislead the House, and no lawyer can have a reasonable objection to the process at this stage because the process has barely begun. It's a little bit like criticising the police, when there's a burglary involved. Yes, well, what the police really need to do is investigate the burglary. And it's like, they are doing. Second of all, that's not what the inquiry has to establish at all. There are 2 potential breaches of the ministerial code being investigated. One is that he deliberately misled the House. That's absolutely one, and that would be the most serious. But there is another as well that they're investigating. When it was pointed out that he misled the House, did he correct the record as soon as possible? Because that is also required of the ministerial code. Because even if misleading the House is inadvertent, which can happen, it can absolutely happen, A politician, you know, members of government are sort of expected to know everything that's going on within their department and within government, but they don't. They rely on briefings from officials, and sometimes they'll say something that they think is true, and it turns out it's not. It can happen. But what happens then? One of your officials will say, no, what you've just said was not true. At which point you go, oh dear, I'd better correct the record. So you are expected to go to Parliament as soon as practically possible, which is usually the next day, and correct the record. Make a special statement saying, sorry, I got that wrong yesterday. And then, you know, it's fine. So even if everything Johnson told Parliament on those 4 occasions was true as he understood it, he genuinely believed it was true. When he was informed that it wasn't afterwards, because all of the 4 things they're investigating, Boris Johnson now accepts were untrue, just inadvertently untrue. So at the point at which he found out they were untrue, did he go back to Parliament immediately to set the record straight? Was it at the earliest opportunity, or did he wait until he got found out? Because if he waited, then he's still guilty, albeit of arguably a less serious offence. But it's still a serious offence because it still nonetheless represents him deliberately letting Parliament believe something that is untrue. Now, I don't know if Pannick will succeed in getting Johnson off, but Creer did point to an article, which I'll link below, where he helped a Lib Dem peer get away with a punishment for sexual harassment. He successfully won a vote in the House of Lords to dismiss the punishment on technical grounds. In other words, not because he wasn't guilty, not because he didn't deserve the punishment, but because there were issues with the due process. Now, it might well be that due process wasn't properly followed at the time, and of course it has to be. Can't be any excuses for not being fair with people just because we don't like them. But the point is that I don't even know if those criticisms were valid, because it doesn't matter. It may just have been an excuse to allow peers to vote down the punishment. We may see the same thing here. It may well be that this legal bombshell does nothing to derail the investigation. After all, why should it? It may well be that the investigation goes ahead, uncovers new information, finds that Johnson is guilty, and recommends a punishment. Tory MPs may then have their arms twisted to vote down the punishment, in exactly the way it was for this Lib Dem peer, on the basis that there's a legal argument that the proper procedures weren't followed. And it doesn't matter if it's true or not. It's something that Tory MPs can sell to their constituents, because that's what this is about. Tory MPs didn't allow this investigation because they wanted to punish Johnson. They were just sick of being made to look like cowards and fools by his behaviour. If they could get away with voting to stop the investigation or stop the punishment, they would do so. So the success of this latest scheme has less to do with real legal arguments, because they'll never be heard by legal experts. It's not going to court. It's not going to be heard by a judge, by qualified and experienced judges. No, it's MPs and the public. The success depends on how it is seen by that public court. Regardless of the arguments, if any Tory MPs think that voters will punish them for letting Johnson off the hook, they'll not do so. If they think that this legal argument gives them ammunition to concerned constituents to say, actually, no, I think you'll find the investigation wasn't done properly, and it calms those voters down, they'll absolutely readily vote to let Johnson off the hook. You know, this is high politics. The rights and wrongs are completely irrelevant. All that matters is what a small group of crucial voters thinks about it. On a personal note, I will say that I see no bad outcome to this, by the way. Because if it doesn't work and Johnson faces his punishment, whatever it is, it doesn't necessarily mean being sacked as an MP, but whatever it is, it can only work to split the Conservative Party further. Because then he'll not only be basically a convicted criminal, but the only Prime Minister who lied to Parliament as well and was caught lying to Parliament. You know, if it works and Johnson's let off the hook, it'll be seen by some voters for what it is. Another example of the Tories looking after their own and showing contempt for the public. So it really doesn't matter what the outcome of this is. It's still bad for the Conservatives. You know, I seriously see no bad outcome here, politically speaking, for those opposed to the Conservatives. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.